Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. I hadn't even done my hits and losses video today because there's so much going on. Another breaking news update. I've just done one on how the US is possibly going to turn off Starlink because the Ukrainians won't sign an extortion deal over 50% of their mineral resources, etc., etc. That is ongoing, but it looks like the US has really joined Russia now in attacking Ukraine and is going to hamstring Ukraine going forward if they don't capitulate entirely to the US's demands that seem to align somewhat with Russia's demands. Okay, so that has happened. Then we're here today. We're going to start off with this, and we're going to move on to the arguably even bigger news, but I don't know, maybe not. I mean, it's both appalling. The CIA, so that's the intelligence operation of the United States of America, plans its biggest mass layoff in 50 years, according to the New York Times. The Trump administration plans to purge a large number of employees working on the issues. Now, the CIA, operatives of the CIA are, first of all, incredibly well trained, as you'd imagine. A lot of investment goes into them. In order to get into the CIA, you're going to be jumping through an awful lot of hoops. It's not an easy thing to just get a job at the CIA. And so there's an awful lot of effort that has gone into these employees to then be just thrown away. Now, you don't want to do the sunk cost fallacy, but there will be a huge amount, no doubt, of expertise that the US is losing at a time when Russia and China are ramping up these activities. They're ramping up propaganda activities. They're ramping up their military and their expenditure. And the US is cutting expenditure on the CIA, the FBI, purging employees from both counterintelligence, counter-terrorism. They've closed the department that looks into foreign interference in US elections. They've closed the department that seizes frozen Russian assets. They are appearing to close Voice of America, Radio Free Liberty, Radio Free Europe, the kind of, influence operations of the US government abroad. It is, everything the US is doing at the moment is to the benefit of Russia and China. Literally everything. So they're purging the CIA. That's looking like bad news for the US position in the world, their intelligence gathering, obviously, but also their influence on the world and their place at the top of the hegemonic ladder, as I often say, which I think, it's public harakiri, it's political harakiri. They are just throwing themselves on their sword, the US at the moment. It is geopolitical suicide, what they're doing. Now, to add to that, Trump has announced that he's prematurely replacing top military officer Charles C.Q. Brown. So he's the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That position is usually for 4 years. He's been there for a year and a half, and they're cutting him loose. Well, it's not just him. So they are firing Pete Hegseth, the top of the DOD, has fired Admiral Lisa Franchetti, General James Silf as well. So you got the Air Force number 2 and the Navy's top officer. And Trump is basically, I think there's at least 6 of them that have been purged. Trump is also firing the Army, Navy and Air Force JAGs. Now, so that's bad enough. So you're clearing out a bunch of top generals, and again, it's that expertise, it's that knowledge, and you're replacing them with people. It appears like the Joint Chiefs of Staff is being replaced by someone wholly unqualified, rather like Pete Hegseth himself. It's just a yes man, and this is exactly what dictators do: is they replace experts and people who know what they're doing, and people who are competent, with people who are just deeply, deeply loyal. And we come on to that. So Trump is also, and this is the bad part of this. No, it's all bad. Sorry. This is arguably the more worrying part of this from certain angles. Okay. So Trump is also firing Army, Navy and Air Force JAGs. So these are military lawyers. In some ways, that's even more chilling than firing the 4-stars, the generals and whatnot. It's what you do when you're planning to break the law. You get rid of any lawyers who might try to slow you down. Christian Thiel says, in an unprecedented purge in the military senior leadership Friday night, President Donald Trump fired the top US general just moments before his defense secretary fired the chief of the US Navy and the vice chief of the Air Force. And then Edward Hunter Chrissy says the secret oath, so you put that together with the lawyers, the secret oath shall be to Donald Trump, leader and president of Great America. In other words, you're removing people who appear to be loyal to the Constitution and replacing them with people who are loyal to the person, to the president. And you are then removing the lawyers who would have something to say about that. So I just want to go to the lawyer point of view, actually, before we return to some of those who's going to replace Charles Brown. So Alexander Vindman here says, pay attention to this. Replacing JAGs with loyalists enables, so the lawyers with loyalists, enables whatever orders Trump and Hegseth issue to be interpreted as lawful. And again, that's a point we're going to return to as well. So Representative Jason Crow, I think he's a veteran, says the purge of senior officers at the DoD is deeply troubling, but purging JAG officers worries me the most. JAG officers interpret the law for our commanders. They help determine what's lawful and constitutional. Replacing these military lawyers with Trump loyalists is so dangerous. As Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has said, we are also requesting nominations for the Judge Advocates General, so the JAGs, for the Army, Navy and Air Force. As Amy McGrath says, and I think it's Amy McGrath, also a veteran, former Marine and F-18 pilot. Interesting. Here's what's going on. When you start firing the military's top lawyers, that means you are getting ready to order the military to do unlawful things. Trump replaces those JAGs with men who will justify any future unlawful and unethical actions that he wants the military to do. And going back to the replacement of Charles Brown, he's doing it with a chap that, I mean, this is Trump all over. 100% reflection of who Donald Trump is.
And this is why I flew. So I met generals I didn't know. General 1, General 2, General 3. I mean, these generals, there's no person in Hollywood that could play the role. These guys are like perfect people. I said, what's your name? Sir, my name is Raisin. What the hell kind of a name? I said, Raisin, like the fruit? He goes, yes, sir, Raisin. What's your last name? Cain. Raisin Cain. I said, you got a big Cain. It's true. Raisin Cain. I just made him a big star. Just like I did with Mattis when I said, we're going to give you a new nickname, because Chaos is not a good nickname. So we changed his name. Called him Mad Dog. But it wasn't working too well. Yeah. And this is why I flew. So I met generals.
So he's all about the performative nature of this, and he's all about what these people say to him. And the new chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff told Donald Trump, and this is General Dan Cain, I love you, sir. I think you're great, sir. I'll kill for you, sir. And this is scary. So that is the representation of what Donald Trump is. Replacing someone with experience and merit, one would argue, and replacing them with someone who is just so deeply loyal that they'll kill for you, sir. I love you. In tonight's military purge, Trump named as chair of the Joint Chiefs Dan Cain, a retired lieutenant general, so underqualified he'd need a waiver. Oddly, Cain was installed last month at 3 venture capitalist firms doing crypto, AI and defense tech, including THRUGH, founded by Jared Kushner's brother. Interesting there. It does look bad if the chairman of Joint Chiefs is taking a paycheck from relatives of the president. But since Trump also fired the Judge Advocates General from all 4 military branches tonight, he might have to wait for an ethics ruling. The New York Times article tonight calls Lieutenant General Cain a serious entrepreneur and investor, but doesn't mention his role in Joshua Kushner's company. It's not a secret, it's on his LinkedIn, and it's very relevant. The public deserves to understand. Reuters also leave this out, but when Trump purges military leadership on a Friday night and selects a new CJCS, the public needs to understand why 3 different VC firms, one run by Trump's own family, cozied up to that man a month before. 3 judge advocates general were fired from the Army, Navy and Air Force. It's not yet reported whether the Marine Corps equivalent has been fired. Just in case he deletes the strange recent VC positions of Joint Chiefs nominee Dan Cain are easily findable and with a simple Google search from sources beyond his LinkedIn. In January, Shield Capital welcomed him in an online post and Rocket Reach lists all 3 VC firms. So, is our CJCS nominee Dan Cain really a crypto bro? Musk doesn't let you see all of anyone's Twitter followers anymore, but even so, it's clear Cain follows a lot of crypto accounts. Coinbase, Binance, Bitcoin Magazine, CoinDesk, various crypto founders and traders. Cain also follows a slew of political figures: Trump, Vance, Rubio, AG Pam Bondi, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. There's nothing wrong with the retired Lieutenant General dabbling in crypto, following politics and accepting lucrative advisory positions. It's just not a good look for the CJCS. But of course, Trump won't care one iota about that. And as Max Kennedy says, Hegseth called Brown, so the guy he's got rid of, the black guy, unqualified solely because he's black. Then they fired him and replaced him with a white guy so indisputably unqualified that he requires a presidential waiver. Is that what merit means to them? Just absolutely incredible. Hegseth had previously taken aim at Brown. First of all, you got to fire the chairman of Joint Chiefs. He said flatly in a podcast in November, and in one of his books, he questioned whether Brown got the job because he was black. Or was it because of his skin color or his skill? We'll never know, but always doubt, which on its face seems unfair to CQ. But since he has made the race card one of his biggest calling cards, it doesn't really much matter, Hegseth wrote. Cain's military service includes combat roles in Iraq, special operations postings, and positions inside some of the Pentagon's most classified special access programs. However, it does not include key assignments that were identified in law as prerequisites for the job, with an exemption for the president to waive them if necessary in times of national interest. So he will only get that job with a waiver. It's not on merit. And they get rid of a guy because they claim, it was DI, he was only in that position because he's black. Well, actually, no, he did qualify for the prerequisites where this guy doesn't. So you tell me who's getting there on merit, right? Because it looks more like Dan Cain is not getting there on merit. He's getting there on the fact that he said he loves Donald Trump and will kill for him. So, then you get Kash Patel is now in charge of the FBI. In 2024, Kash Patel received a $225,000 fee from a Russian film company that promoted pro-Russian and anti-Western views. Now he will be responsible for countering Russian espionage operations in the United States. The truly sad part is that 51 Republican senators voted for his confirmation. It looks like Trump is just a symptom of a deeply sick Republican Party, and that is both sad and scary. Remember, when I attack Trump and the Republican Party that supports Trump, I'm really attacking MAGA Republicanism and not old school Reagan Republicanism. But unfortunately, many of those Reagan Republicans in private are against what is happening. But in public, they don't have the chops really to stand up against Trump. And you can sort of understand that. They have been threatened with being primaried. Musk and others have threatened to put their money behind anyone who would challenge people who stand up to Trump. So who would challenge them in a primary election so that they would lose their job effectively. So Mehdi Hassan says, I'm trying to imagine the reaction of Joe Biden or Barack Obama if they had spoken to a Republican governor in this way at a public event. I just can't. None of us can. So this is what happened yesterday. And this is forget that this is about trans issues, right? Because I know some of you would be like, oh, yeah. This is about law, right? When you understand that this interaction is merely about law, so it might be that for Trump this is about the kind of woke blah blah blah, but listen to what he says and listen to what she says. So this is a governor at a Trump address to governors at the White House, and he gets into a spat with someone as follows.
Is the Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
So his question is, are you not going to comply with it? So some kind of ruling about trans. And she said, she didn't say no. She said, I am going to comply with state and federal law. So forget that this is about trans issues, because that clouds what's going on here. This is about law.
We are the federal law.
We are the federal law, he says. He says we, as in me, as in the Trump administration, we are the federal law. We are the law. Actually, no, you're the executive branch, and there is a judicial branch, and there is Congress, there is the Supreme Court, and there is you, the president. And those three branches of government mean that there is a separation of powers, so that you don't unilaterally become the law. But this then fits into him saying he's the king the other day. This interaction is freaking worrying. Go and read Jason Stanley's How Fascism Works, because everything that's happening at the moment in the US government is how fascism works. And you're sliding there at the moment, big time.
Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all.
So if you don't do what I say, not what the law says, she says, I'm going to do what the law says. He says, if you don't do what I say, you won't get federal funding.
If you don't, and by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state. If
you heard what she said there, he said you won't get any federal funding. She says, and I love this, I'll see you in court. And that's absolutely right. Do you know what? I will do what they say, but I'll do what the courts say, not what you say. I'll see you in court. Let's let them decide. That's how it should be.
State, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. Every state.
This is symptomatic of what is going on. Deeply troubling. Usually when states go to court alleging federal coercion in violation of the 10th Amendment, there's not a literal video of the president doing it. I mean, there is coercion going on here. He's literally done it on national television. It's incredible. And I'm going to leave you with this. Pekka Kaluniemi says, first, take over the media. So remember, he kicked out 8 mainstream media outlets and those that might be critical of authoritarianism, kick them out of the Pentagon and replace them with media who completely acquiesce to Trump and his administration. He's essentially doing similar in the White House. He's trying to take over the media. You've got obviously Fox News, OAN and Newsmax likewise completely acquiesce to Trump, and they are the most watched. Fox is. So take over the media, replace officials and judges with loyalists, and we've seen that in the military, FBI, CIA, across government, the purge of government. So it's not just judges but it's officials, and officials is right across the civil service. Replace them with loyalists, silence the opposition, and then take over the military. I've never seen a country slide into authoritarianism this quickly before. It's happening, and it's happening now in front of our eyes every single day. Germany didn't get Hitler overnight. There's a quick slide, maybe, but there is a slide. And at different points along that slide, you might think that, hey, we've got nothing to worry about. The United States of America, citizens, wake up. Wake up. You're on the edge. Take care. Speak soon.